Sat Shri Akal everyone. Today we are going to learn about Ted Hughes and his one of the most important poem, The Thought Fox. First, we will discuss some important points about Ted Hughes, then we will move on to his poem, The Thought Fox. As you all know, his name was Edward James Hughes, and he was an English poet, translator, and children's writer. He was also appointed as Poet Laureate in 1984. He was born in 1930 in England, and he was died in 1998 in London, England. And if we are talking about his wives, then his wives' names were Sylvia Plath and Carol Orchard. As you all know, Sylvia Plath was also an American poet, and she was also very much famous, and she was known for her confessional poetry, and she was also awarded a Pulitzer Prize. Now moving on to his poem, The Thought Fox. As you all know, this is very important from Master Cadre perspective, and now we will discuss this poem in detail. This poem was published in his first poetry collection, The Hawk in the Rain, and this poetry collection was published in 1957, and it is written in free verse where there is no rhyme scheme, and it's irregular rhythm, and it is consisted of 24 lines, 6 stanzas of 4 lines each. It means 6 quatrains, and its theme is the creative process of writing poetry, imagination as a living force. The poet wants to tell us that writing poetry is not just a logical phenomena, but is more than that. It is something that we can find that is our instincts and natural. The poet sits at midnight and imagining a dark forest. He can sense someone else's presence also, something that is also there. And next lines are, beside the clock's loneliness and this blank page where my fingers move. Now the poet wants to say that the clock is ticking, and he can feel the loneliness, and he was sitting, and nothing he was writing, just blank page, and his fingers were moving on there. Actually, he was waiting some kind of inspiration so that he could write poetry. In these next lines, the poet wants to say that through the window I see no star. He couldn't see any star in the sky, as when he looks out of the window, something more near. But instead of this, he senses something more near, something closer, though deeper within darkness, which is much deeper in the darkness, is entering the loneliness, and something whose presence he can feel. And this idea is symbolized by the fox's presence, and at first it is not very clear as what the idea is to the poet, so it is just he can just sense it. The fox, which is symbolizes as the thoughts that comes into the mind of the poet. So it is very cold, and he appears delicately and very carefully, and his nose was touching the forest floor. The shining eyes of the fox serves as a movement, and it guides throughout the forest, and it serves as it is just a symbol of that the poet now he's getting the ideas to write a poem. Now he gets some inspiration to write all those ideas on the paper. In these lines, the poet says that the fox sets neat prints into the snow as it leaves clear footprints in the snow as it moves cautiously, and its shadow follows behind, and while his body moves forward, and the fox moves across the open spaces, and its eyes are glowing green, deep and wide. The fox is fully focused and moving with its own purpose. In the last lines of this poem, the poet wants to say that now the fox The fox, which is a symbol of inspiration, comes into his head or comes into his mind, and the window is starless still. The Everything is same. The window is still starless and the clock is still ticking, but what is different, it's the page is printed now. The poet has written his poem, or the page is filled with words. It means whatever the imagination or whatever the idea he wants to think, he has used those ideas in words, and now his poem is ready. That's all. It was the poem where the idea is symbolized by the fox's presence. If you like this poem, please share and subscribe. Thank you.